Hey everyone, I'm Kat, President of Athos Insurance.
And I'm Eileen, I'm Vice President of Athos Insurance.
And we're going to talk about a few things to keep in mind when you're buying equipment insurance. So the first thing we want to talk about is voluntary parting and false pretense coverage. What this is it covers your equipment if you rent out your gear to somebody unaccompanied by you and that person just never returns. So for example, if you're renting out your equipment to somebody else to use and you're not accompanying it and this person just disappears, you can't contact them, then this would actually cover that scenario.
So people think that theft is the same thing as voluntary parting, but it's actually not. Theft is usually when someone steals the equipment from you versus voluntary parting is when you willingly give your equipment or rent your equipment to someone else. That's not the same thing. Even the law actually defines it very differently. And the biggest misconception for owners is that they think that the renter's policy will actually pay in the event of a claim, but that's not true. It actually falls on the owner's insurance policy to pay for something like this.
This scenario is nothing new to the rental industry, and so what we've tried to do is address it by offering it online, and you can buy it on ShareGrid's website.
Next thing, we're going to talk about theft from an unlocked vehicle. Now, most people think that when they buy insurance that this is automatically included. It's actually not. It's something that you have to add to your policy. If this ever happens to you and you find that your equipment's ever stolen from your vehicle, most insurance carriers will actually make sure to ask if there's any physical signs of break-in, and if there isn't, sometimes they don't cover it. So if you're ever buying insurance from ShareGrid, you want to make sure to add this optional coverage.
And also, we wanted to talk about the unattended vehicle exclusion. This basically covers the scenario when a theft occurs at the time the vehicle is unattended. So you want to make sure when you buy a policy that this coverage is there. The Athos policy, however, automatically includes this coverage. Another thing to look out for is to see if your policy requires a scheduled equipment. For many equipment policies out there, most carriers require a schedule in order for it to be covered. What this means is that you have to have a list that has the make, model, serial number, and replacement cost value in order for that to be covered. And that also has to include sales tax in that replacement cost. If your schedule doesn't have that item at the time of a claim, it's not going to be covered.
And for Athos' policy specifically, we require that all owned items over $5,000 must be scheduled in order for it to be covered.
So this next issue we see all the time, and it's really frustrating when we see this happen. And what it is when owners underinsure themselves on the equipment that they own. So for example, let's just say that you have $100,000 worth of equipment, and you're thinking, well, I only bring out a maximum of $50,000 on a shoot, so I'm only gonna cover myself for $50,000. You're actually underinsuring yourself. And people think this is such a great way to save money, but it's really not a good idea, especially if you've had that claim where your equipment is stolen from your house and then $100,000 is just gone and you only get paid for that $50,000.
And for all you renters out there, it's the same thing. So you want to make sure that when you buy a policy that you're actually covering all of your rentals combined. So for example, if you're renting from a ShareGrid member and you're renting from a rental house, you want to make sure that you add up the total for both of those different rentals to get the limit that you actually need. We see this all the time. Someone buys a policy and they end up issuing a ton of certs, and then we realize, hey, this person thinks this one limit applies for just one rental house, and that's not true. So you want to make sure you add up everything to get that limit that you actually need.
So a common misconception is that people think that their homeowners or renters policies covers their equipment. This is actually not the case all the time. The reason is because there's often an exclusion for equipment for commercial use.
And also, some policies won't cover your gear when it leaves your home. So you want to make sure that your policy actually includes that coverage. Athos' policy covers your gear whether it's in your home or you're using it. It even covers you worldwide when you're traveling.